Afsoon, first thing I want to do is congratulate you on being selected into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I am very thrilled and very honored.
Great.
Thank you.
So I have some questions I'm going to ask you about your background.
Yes.
First, what individual had the greatest impact on your wrestling career?
I would have to say that's my father. He's the person that started me in wrestling. And being an only child, being his only offspring, I'm sure he had always wanted a son to follow in his footsteps for wrestling because he was a wrestler. And I ended up being the only child and being a girl. But he didn't care about that. He was bound to have his wrestler in the family, and so he's the one that got me started, taught me my first technique, my first single leg, my first double leg, and I would have to say that's who I owe it to.
Great. Who was your wrestling idol or hero growing up?
Well, it was absolutely my father. But, you know, growing up, I also, my role models, I got to watch John Smith and, you know, watch videos of Dan Gable. And I didn't have any other female wrestlers as role models, right? Because I was, I think, the first that I knew of. And so I'm hoping that in future you'll be interviewing more women wrestlers and they'll have answers for you of other female wrestlers that can be role models. But for now, you know, I think my role model was my father, but I did admire watching John Smith and Dan Gable wrestling videos.
What personal attribute contributed most to your success in the sport of wrestling?
I would have to say it's my perseverance, because it was very easy to quit. Times were tough being an only girl in a, at that time, male-dominated sport. And there were a lot of times that I just wanted to quit because it was getting to be too hard on many levels, not just the physical part of wrestling, but also the mental and the social and, you know, people's opinions of it at the time. So I would have to say my perseverance, that I didn't quit and I kept going because I loved the sport and it didn't matter, and just kept going, is what eventually led to my success.
Throughout your wrestling career, what is the single most memorable match or event?
I wish I could say it was a win, but unfortunately it was the loss in the World Championships finals. You know, I think every wrestler dreams to achieve that the best that they can, whether that's an Olympic gold medal. For me at the time, that wasn't an opportunity, so it was the world gold medal. And it was an opponent I had beat several times, and we were in the finals of the World Championships, so it was right there, but she was from Sweden, and the World Championships were in Sweden. And so it was a really tough loss and memorable for me at the time because of the loss. You know, wrestlers tend not to remember their wins, but we do remember our losses. I think that's what we learn most from. So at that time, it was memorable because it was a loss and because it was a devastation for me. Looking back at it now, it's memorable because I actually look very positively on it. It is, after all, a world silver medal, and I'm proud of it now.
What made you get involved in the sport of wrestling?
How could you not love wrestling? Wrestling is a great sport, and you know, I grew up watching my father wrestle, and I guess I just didn't know any better. I didn't know any different, that I couldn't wrestle. I watched my father do it, and so of course, you know, every child aspires to be like their parents, and you know, he was such a good role model for me, and I know that it made him proud, and so I guess I just didn't know any better and loved the sport, and so that's what made me wrestle.
If you had the opportunity to start your career over again, is there anything you would change?
I don't think a thing, not a thing. I think everything in life happens for a reason. And I think good or bad, the things that I went through during my wrestling career, there was a reason behind it. And for that, I would not change a single thing because it wouldn't have led up to the moment tonight, where I am tonight.
And finally, what would you like people to remember about you?
Well, you know, I would like to be the Billie Jean King of wrestling. I would like people to remember me as a pioneer. There, like I said, weren't any women to show us how and lead the path and be a trailblazer. So I hope that people can remember me in that role. It would make me very honored.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.